Hey everybody, welcome back to today's live stream. Sounds like my audio is working. Always do that one test real quick just so I can hear myself, make sure everything's working. How are you guys doing on this beautiful Sunday? Thank you so much, CMD, for the super chat. You are a real baller. We're going to do some amazing VFX goodness today. It's going to be an awesome stream. We're finishing up what we already started, what we've been working on for the last month or so. And I think that today is going to be super awesome. I always enjoy it when we get to that last stage of finishing up the doing the comping of like a CG thing, because it's this nice final goodness on the renders that we do, is taking it into Nuke and comping it all together. And today is going to be super awesome. I want to give a special shout out to all these wonderful Patreon subscribers right here. You guys help make these streams run and make everything super awesome. Hey, how you doing, Orlando? How are you doing, Emmanuel? Welcome into the chat. And Vinicius, welcome into the chat as well. How you guys doing on this wonderful day today? Today's Super Bowl Sunday. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. I don't know if you guys watch American football or what you guys participate in those activities, but I always find it fun to watch just even the commercials on Super Bowls, even if it's not a team that I'm supporting or anything like that. I love watching the commercials and the halftime shows and all that. I'll see if I get to that later today or not. Today shouldn't be that long of a stream. We're kind of finishing up everything. I was going to give a rough overview of everything that we've done on this project so far, just starting it out. I did a goal, which was the super chat, which is the super chat goal for this stream was to raffle out a Patreon membership. So I'm gonna do that. So if you guys all want to enter, just you have to do the minimum, I think, was the $2 thing or something like that. And that'll be a raffle for a free membership to Patreon. Oh, yeah, let's turn off this group here, and we'll jump into today's stream. So, what we've been doing for the last month or so was taking a footage of a bartender and then removing his head, painting back in the collar and the back of the collar as well. So that way we just had a clean plate version without the head. And then we took that, put a cube there, motion tracked it, and to where the head was supposed to be. And then from that, we ended up taking it to Blender, modeling a whole robotic Chappie head, texturing it, lighting it, and then we rendered it out last week, and so then now this week we're going to be taking it back into comp. So this was kind of what we started out with. This was a piece of footage here. You guys can grab this plate over on the Action VFX website. Link to that is in the description. All we did was we used this piece of footage here. I just rendered out myself an Asus CG plate from the footage that they gave us. And then that's what we used as our starting place for what we did. And then from there, we went down the line, right? Okay, so we stabilized just the section of where the head's supposed to be. We then ended up painting the background back in, these wonderful beer bottles and stuff like that. Everything kind of painted back in. We reapplied the motion after the fact. And then we then stabilized it again. We painted back in the back collar of the shirt here. And then we painted in the front collar again. So that way we had the front as well as the back. And then, of course, we reapplied the motion after the fact, right? So now that we have all of those things, that's basically labeled out here inside of my comp using these nodes. Probably going to have to clean up some stuff. And we'll clean that up and make sure that it's all pretty. Now, we did do a 3D camera track. So if you guys remember back to the very first video that we did on this whole series, I basically rotoed only the section of where his head was. And then we created a camera track where we only tracked the features on his face. Now this works really well for any type of object tracking that you're doing, is you treat the face or the object. I used this, for instance, on a door opening once. I needed a 3D camera match move of the door moving, and sometimes the best way to do that is pretend like the door's not moving and the camera is. And if you do that, then the camera's going to move around in the scene, but then your object stays stationary. And that's exactly what we did. We basically tracked the features of the head here. We then placed in a cube in the location where that head was. And that cube doesn't move around in 3D, but if we go here into the 3D perspective, you'll notice that the cube kind of just sits there. and then that camera moves all around. When in reality, it will look like from the camera's perspective that the cube is moving around. That's the real trick that we did here. And this was kind of like a fun little thing that we were able to do. And then, of course, if you comp that in on top of everything, it moves then with, the body. And that's how you get a really cool match move. You could do this for any type of moving object. So I did it like with a door before. You could use it with a car. You can use it with like maybe somebody's holding an object in their hand. You can track it that way. It's probably not the most ideal way. The Mocha has some better match moving tracking features than this, but this works default with inside of your software. And you could do this inside of After Effects. You could do this inside of Nuke. You can do this inside of Blender. However you choose to camera track that stuff. So that's where we were at, right? So we took that over into our Blender software. And once we had that inside of Blender, we could then really just create ourselves a 3D model that is moving around with everything, and then we animate it on top of it, because now every movement that we make, the head turn or the ears wiggle or whatever we're deciding to do, all of that stuff is going to be reapplied inside of our match move. And then when we render this out, we could take it into our comp and comp everything together. So all of that work just to get where we're at here today. All of these project files, by the way, are available over on the Patreon, and you guys can grab those and download them and use them for whatever you want. I wanted to give you some of the settings that I used to render this stuff because I didn't show you guys this stuff last week, so I'm going to run through it real quick. A key thing to keep in mind that I noticed yesterday when I pulled it into Nuke, and I was just like, oh, how does everything look just lining up? I didn't change the resolution settings here. So this is 1920 by 1080, which probably means that there's a cropping issue with the side of the plate. And you can see that probably that it's cropping the left and the right side because it's cropping the height to be height to height. That didn't cause a problem for us because his face never goes off to the side. But that is something to note that I didn't actually do that. So we're going to have to fix that over in the comp, but that's not that big of an issue. Not in our particular instance, though I will say, keep that in mind before you hit the render. These resolution settings need to match your aspect ratio, at least the aspect ratio of your final render. And that should have been 2048 by 1080. Which, by the way, I recommend doing it like this, 2048 by 1080. And then if you did want to render it out at half res, you just change this percentage here. That would be the way that I would definitely recommend doing that. So I'm going to set that back to 1920 by 1080, which is the incorrect aspect ratio. Here in Brazil, you had no idea the Super Bowl would be today. Cool, I'm going to watch the Kendrick show. What's Kendrick's show? I don't know what Kendrick's show. We're so back, baby. Yes, we are. We are back. But yeah, so those are the render settings for the resolution. And then obviously I set the output here, and then we use OpenEXR multi-layers. Now, why do we do that? Because it gives us a bunch of extra AOVs that we can render inside of our EXRs. I'm going to show you that in a second. So we use OpenEXR multi-layer. I tend to not overwrite, and I don't like to use placeholders unless I'm doing a render farm. More on that in another video. But you can set up really cool render farms with Blender for free. You don't have to use all these extra services. You could literally just use default Blender to use as a render farm. I set my color management settings, which you guys can't see too well because my head's in the way. I set that to ACES CG, so that way I'm using the exact same color management config file over inside of Nuke. So I'm using an ACES CG pipeline, and that's all the way from the very beginning when I made my visual effects plates. In DaVinci Resolve, I rendered out the plates as ACES CG. I then brought them into Nuke. They're tagged as ACES CG. Everything I render out of Blender is ACES CG. So that way everything is working together in this wonderful, beautiful pipeline that we have going on here. Okay, so that's your color management settings. Now let's go over here. This is our layers, all right? When we go into our layers, there's a bunch of AOVs that we can turn on. I did not turn these on, though I do recommend turning on normals in a general sense in a production pipeline. I love to turn on normals because it allows me to relight stuff inside of comp, which I haven't done too much of on stream. But I don't know, did you guys watch my cows video that I posted on YouTube? How many of you guys raised of hands? Give me a raise of hand in the chat. Did you guys watch that cows breakdown video I posted a couple days ago? I use normals quite a bit on that because we didn't capture HDRIs on set, and the way our pipeline was working with the Nuke comp and like the renders, I would end up relighting quite a bit of that stuff inside of the comp to match perfectly to the footage. And it would allow me to have a lot more control over making sure the cows looked really perfect and like they're set in the scene. I would try to get everything to match really closely inside of the CG before I rendered it, but then when we took it into comp, I could then relight it and make it look really good. Yeah, the cows break down. Dude, that was my life for the last few months. Nothing but cows. That's all I've been working on for the last like 3 months. But yeah, using normals for that is great. I've been messing around with a few of these other AOVs, but I can't talk too much on that right now. But the other more important thing that I did turn on specifically for this render were crypto mats. Definitely recommend turning these on. I would at least turn on object, maybe material, depending on how your guys's meshes are set up. If you have different meshes, for instance, this bar right here versus the glasses versus, you know, the side of the head, all of that stuff, those are separate objects in my particular instance. But maybe you have a character that is just one big same mesh with all the arms and legs and everything like that. And you may want to have that be able to break down those with crypto mats. And that's where materials works really well. Sometimes I have two different materials on this object. For instance, this front facing bit and this bit here is one object, but they're two separate materials. So that's where these things can be very useful, is being able to use both objects and materials to specify one specific element that you would like to grade or solo or whatever. And we're going to be using this. So make sure that if you guys render out using this exact same setup, that you turn both these on. I use crypto mats pretty much on every CG render. Those cows were really useful because it was a bunch of entities, and I was rendering out some with different materials and others were different objects, and I wanted to be able to isolate specific groups. And sometimes having assets also turned on made it very easy for you to be able to select a group or a collection of things. OpenEXR is a file type that I would have used, but had not started up in Nuke. It's not something that I know a lot about, but I'm starting to get how helpful. It could be a bit finicky. Yeah, they're also pretty heavy. I will say that, but I do think though that you will once you start using it, you'll never go back to anything else. It allows you to place even more than just these AOVs inside of a file. You can have so many layers. I don't even know what the limit to the amount of layers that you can have. But even when rendering out of comp, I like to embed some of these types of mats directly inside of it. For instance, if I wanted to give, you know, this mask here to the colorist, I can be able to isolate that specific layer. In fact, I'll show you guys how to do that in comp. Today's not a crazy comp day. It's not a crazy long live stream. But I wanted to show you some of the cool tricks that I would do in order to send this to a colorist, so that way they have the proper materials moving forward. Thank you for the amazing videos on the Nuke. VFX, they are pretty helpful and informative. Absolutely. Absolutely. We live stream once a week, so I'm glad to see you guys here and joining. Make sure to hit the subscribe button below if you guys haven't already. And obviously, I mean, I feel like a broken record, but if you guys want these project files, you can go grab them. They'll be uploaded to the Patreon. But today, we're not spending time in Blender, okay? We already rendered this stuff out. We're actually going to take this now over into Nuke and comp this stuff there. So I'm actually just going to close this. I'll hit don't save. We don't need to save our changes there. And I'm going to open up our Nuke comp. Let's pull in our renders. Now we're going to have to clean up. This is an absolute mess. It's because we basically use this to create our camera track and our paint outs, and that was all of that stuff. All right, so it's a little messy in here, and I might need to clean it up. All right, just for the sanity, and also because I don't want to look like an idiot. But let's go ahead and add just like a backdrop over here. And then what I like to do with these backdrops, by the way, if you double click them, you can go over from fill to border. It just looks so much nicer and cleaner if you do that. So we're going to just do that. And then, of course, we're going to give this a nice little name here. I'm going to call this HDRI setup. This is what we used to create our HDRI in the previous live stream. And that's what we use to create all the reflections inside of our metal surfaces. And then let's see, we're going to pull this down here. I also sometimes don't like using linked trackers because it sends these like little green lines everywhere from this tracker, which is nice because then you know where everything's connected to, but it's also just adds so much extra stuff everywhere and like little lines and everything. And I have a bit of like I just want it to look clean and everything. Let's we don't actually probably need this setup over here. All of this was for creating our 3D camera track. So I'm just going to move this over here and then we'll create another backdrop. Just call this camera track. And I'm going to also swap that to border. That's just going to be out of our way. These were things we used in our previous live streams. I should line that up with the top there. Cool. And then let's see. So this is everything down to this portion here with the paint out. And we're going to need to stick our robot head in there. But we have separate layers, of course, right? We've got the front of the bow tie here. And then just before that, we actually have the non-bow tie section. Okay, so let's pull this in. I'm gonna open up a new read node and we're gonna find our EXRs for this. I did render this, and I'll just show you here, to a folder called 3D out, and inside of that, version 1. This is how I like to keep things organized. You have just an output folder for all of your Blender EXRs that you're outputting, and then different version numbers inside of that for that. And usually I don't call this just 3D out. Maybe I'll call it, I'll put it under 3D out, and then I'll say robot head, and then version 1. And that way, if you have multiple CG elements that you are rendering out, different layers of stuff, you could have robot head, you could have robot arms, you could have background, you can have whatever you want. That keeps everything super organized there. So I'm going to go and put version 1 in there, and then we'll go ahead and select our robot head, hit open. Now, if I go view this, the first thing that you're going to notice is that it's all just black, but if we go to our layers here, you can see that we have a bunch of layers associated with this robot head EXRs that we just inputted, but nothing's under RGBA. And this just happens to be the way that Blender is currently rendering out the stuff. It doesn't render your RGBA channel to RGBA. It renders it to a combined RGBA. So we're going to need to shuffle that over into our main RGBA section. So if we add a shuffle node in, you'll notice that we can also see all of our layers here. And I'm just going to select view layer combined, which is just the render beauty pass of our view layer. And that's going to put everything from there, the red, green, blue, alpha, directly over into our main RGBA. So now we have all of our channels associated with that. Of course, we can play it back, and now we can see our robot head moving in all of its beauty and glory with its textures and reflections and lighting passes and everything that we've got going on here. Just going to render everything out over alpha. Cool, that looks great. Now we're going to want to comp this over top of our head. Now there's a couple ways we could do this. First of all, one thing to realize is that we need to drop this in at about this area of our stack, but we are currently stabilized inside of this section. So we can either reapply the match move and then stabilize again for the front of this the shirt, or we can stabilize our head section here, which is probably what we're going to end up doing. So we need this to live with inside of the same rasterized resolution layer. And as I mentioned earlier, I rendered this out as 1920 by 1080 instead of the 2048 by 1080. Now that's not a huge problem for us here. It just means that we need to reformat our work. So I'm going to add in a reformat node, and it's just using our root, which is already set to 2048 by 1080. That was something we did on a previous live stream. And now if we go look at this, you'll notice that it's just chopping the tops and bottoms here. And so the next thing we need to do is then make this set to height. And if we do that, you'll notice that it's just extending the left and right areas of our image. And then now, of course, we need to add a stabilize into it. So we'll just copy paste our stabilize, and then we'll just add another merge node in here. And this will merge it right over top of everything. Now, I don't know if I think I had that set to width yesterday when I tested this, and I think that worked better. So let's go ahead and play this back. Now we're viewing this as it's merged in over top of our footage here. So now let's just see if everything lines up. Is this my own personal project? Yes. This is just for a live stream. This is just something we're doing on stream today. It's not for any film or anything like that. Okay, so now you'll notice that the image is moving around all wacky, and that's because it's currently stabilized. If we view the reapplied motion version of this, then you'll notice that everything will look more normal, but everything is currently lining up. By the way, how many cows did you guys put in the scene? For some of the shots, I think that final shot in that video had like pretty close to 10,000 cows. So a lot of cows. Some other shots, not as many. It really just depended on where the camera was at and how close it was. A good amount of the shots, they would have some real cows and some CG cows. And sometimes we would remove the real cows, and other times we would just use those as like our hero cows. Like if there was something like really close to the camera, we would use real cows, and then behind that we would extend with CG cows. You know, pretty typical how set extension works with adding in crowd sims. Okay, this looks like it's tracking. Hey, Hasselhoff, welcome into the live stream. How you doing today? Okay, that looks great. Now, if we go ahead and view this is putting the shirt over top of it. I want to show you guys something real quick. So if we do that, you'll notice that there's some weird matte issues here, like the head goes below its own collar and stuff like that. That's going to be problematic. We need the collar to kind of be below the chin area, but also up in front of the throat area. And here's the really cool thing. We created crypto mats from our first from our render. So now we can actually isolate specific parts of our image. Let's go ahead and do that. So if we go look at our character here, we specifically want this probably to be behind the collar, and then we want this to be in front of the collar. It's just to create like that, you know, effect of like 3D-ism that we're doing. The gloss color is a bit too cold. Well, yeah, 100%. We haven't gotten into any grading or anything like that yet. We're mostly just dropping everything in right now. So what I'm going to do is before our reformat node, we're going to actually need to use a crypto mat to isolate specific parts of the layer. And that way we can actually drop things in, you know, in like kind of like a 3D perspective of stuff. I don't want like this section here to be in front of the collar, but let's say everything above this part of the head here, if he's rotating his head downwards, we kind of want all of this upwards to be up in front of the collar, and then everything down here that we want the collar to be kind of like tucked in front of. So if we go ahead and view that real quick, we'll notice that we actually have all of these wonderful objects from our cryptomat. This is how cryptomats work. So all I have to then do is select certain parts of that cryptomat. And if I go to the alpha channel, you'll notice that it creates an alpha layer of that stuff. So I just now need to go ahead and select all of the different objects that we created inside of our Blender scene that would be in front of that collar section. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. We probably don't need all of this stuff up here, but I'm just going to grab it anyways. And now you can see that we have this great alpha channel that's being created of everything above, but not this stuff down here. Cool. And then if we go ahead and just use this with a merge layer, we can isolate just that portion of the head versus the entire thing. I'm going to go ahead and reformat it the exact same way. Whoops. Below that merge node, and then we're going to go ahead and stabilize it as well. So the way our merge layer stacks are kind of happening is this is going in front of that painted out background section of the shirt, and then we then create the collar in front of it. But in front of this collar, before we do all of this match move, let's go ahead and move this down. We then have this other portion, which is the front of the jawline here, that we would like to merge this over top of. So again, we've got the painted out back collar, the whole head, then the collar, And then now our jawline, which is going to kind of go in front of everything there. And that right off the bat is going to fix a lot of our problems, because now everything is going to line up, and then it's going to go in front of, you know, the bow tie and everything as he's looking down, which is what it was supposed to do in kind of 3D, but we didn't have that collar. It's all 2D that we're creating that effect. So that's already going to kind of like fix everything there. Let's just play that back again real quick. That looks pretty sweet. That's already working out quite a bit better. I will say, when you see through here and you can kind of see like that collar back there and it's pretty light, that kind of throws me off, okay? So let's go ahead and add in a grade node here. We could probably take, you know what we could do instead of adding in a roto node? Let's use another crypto mat here. For you, things are constantly going over your head. What's going over your head? Nothing goes over your head, Hasselhoff. What are you talking about? I'm actually probably going to take, let's, instead of using a crypto mat, let's take the whole alpha of that entire thing here. I'm going to blur out the stabilization here. Let's do that. I'm going to go to the alpha channel. And if we blur it, it's going to kind of blur outwards. You're so proud of your wordplay. Oh, I'm sorry. Dude, when I'm in streaming mode, it's hard to sometimes pick up on like small jokes like that, man. I'm not a professional, okay? I'm not a professional. Okay, I'm going to go back over here. Now, let's look at this real quick. So this is, we probably want to use this alpha here as well. So we have this blur node. I'm going to add in another merge node. It's getting things a little complicated. We're going to use the mask of this. That way it's only creating the blur section of that. Yeah, that's probably about right. I like that. And then if we go into here now, we should be able to control just the alpha of specifically where that like shirt is going to be. I'm probably going to darken everything up a little bit. And then if we blur that a little less, probably blur it down to like 13 or something. That way we get some lighter areas. Then that can go in over top of everything. Merge that back in. Merge that back in. We are having, you know, some fun smudginesses that are happening, but that overall help sell that a little bit better. Beautiful. Okay, great. So that's going to just be like a nice little slight shadow, and we could adjust that a little bit more if we wanted to. But for right now, I'm just going to keep that as is, and then we can come back to it. Yeah, this is getting a little messy, guys. A little messy. I'm probably just going to clean that up. If you're doing a bunch of shots in production, oftentimes you want to create like a really nice, clean setup for everything. So that way, you know, it's not just 1,000 nodes in different areas. Because if you're doing stuff in sequences, that means you're probably going to do like 5, 6, 10 different times you're going to see this robot head. The next VFX breakdown I'm posting this week, we did, it was, what was it, 25? It was about 25 shots of this one sequence of day for night shots that have bioluminescence and all of this wonderful jazz in it. Water sims and everything. And it was about 25 shots of the same thing. So we would lock the first look with the director. We sat down, we made sure that everything looked good just on that first shot. And then from there, we went and used the exact same settings moving forward, making sure that everything was using the exact same look. Because that's really important from a continuity perspective. Also, having a nice clean node setup allows you to make changes quicker, especially if you're moving down the line and you've got now 25 shots that you need to make a small adjustment to, because maybe the director or some creative comes in and goes, hey, I just don't like the way this thing looks. And then you go, oh, okay, great. Now I got to go back to all 25 of those shots and make that adjustment. Having a nice clean setup, everything being the same every single time makes it way easier to do that. Way easier to do that. I'm going to just Cool. Okay, great. I don't know why. Having a messy node setup is like having a language that you can only understand. 100%. Also, working with other people, it's very important to be able to pass things off and be able to communicate things very easily. I can't tell you how many times I've received stuff from artists, and it's like spending the first half of your day just looking through all of their files trying to find everything. That's no fun. Especially the more and more complicated things get, that can get very frustrating very quickly. I'm going to hide the input of this, and then we could just move that over there. Perfect. Okay, so now that we've got that kind of like all positioned and sitting in there, I'd like to mess around a little bit with some of the color. I'm going to move up the EXRs here to a little bit higher of a level, so that way we have more room between our different stuff. If I add a grade node, you can just see what's going to happen now. I can make adjustments to pretty much everything, and it adjusts it both in front of that collar and behind the collar. That's where having, you know, that section will be useful. Let's see, I'm going to move all of that down as well. Perfect. Okay. Now, here's a cool little trick that sometimes I do to help match things into your environment a little bit better. If we had a reference of what this was supposed to look like, which we don't, so we can't do it this way, but if we did have a reference of what this specific blue or this specific silver or black or any of that kind of stuff is supposed to look like in this specific environment, we can actually very easily map our colors to doing this. A lot of times in product renders, I end up doing things like this. Also, for instance, with the cows, it was very easy to do this because you have relative colors that you want to map things to. You can use your black point, your white point, your lift, and your gain to basically map everything inside of your CG sequence here to the correct values. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's take the black point. This will just be like the ultramost black point on your shot here. So let's take this deep dark black that's within inside of the jaws, right? Okay, they got no light in there, but that's the most black that we have. And actually it's very dark. And if you look at our shot as a whole, is there anything in here that is as dark as that? Not really, actually. We don't really have anything that's that crazy dark. I mean, down here probably, right? But that is way darker than anything that we have inside of our CG, because oftentimes when you render stuff out in CG, it's A, too sharp. We've talked about that before. And then B, it's also too dynamic of a render, because you can have something that is so linearly highlighted and then goes to like this beautiful like peak of a highlight, and it goes so dark that a camera probably wouldn't normally be able to capture that image quite as well. Maybe like a darker brown for the footage, but not 100% black. Yeah, exactly. Only you at the moment can understand. The you in 3 months will struggle as well. Oh, for what? The node setup? Yeah, that's probably fair. So using this black point here, we're basically saying, hey, this is the uttermost black of this CG render, okay? And if we go to our 2 here, you'll notice that it's not really making any changes because it's already so close to being pure black. What you're doing is using this grade node, you're saying, hey, this value right here should be pure black. It's already really close to it, so we're not seeing a huge change, but let's say I did accidentally select something like that. It would crush all the values in that range right there to be pure black. Now, we don't want that. So we do want it to be this value here, which is right over here. We do want this dark level here. And then for our highlights here, let's go ahead and just like bring this down and see what our uttermost white is. It's probably one of these paint sections, right? So let's go ahead and just select one of the paint areas here, and then we'll say this is our white point, okay? Probably gonna select that. I'm gonna disable this real quick, and then we're gonna do it again. Yeah. Always makes it a lot easier if you disable first, because then that way it's not checking the value that it's already seeing when it's swapping. So like if you say, hey, this is the white value, and then it peaks and then you're still clicking, then it'll set it back. It basically like inverts your selection because you're selecting a value that doesn't really exist there, and it just starts to flicker like crazy. So sometimes you do need to disable this grade node first. Okay, now what you're going to see is it's actually making your whole of your image more mapped out to like the black and white values of like, hey, this is white, this is black, and then everything in between is going to kind of stretch itself to those different parts. And then now, if I go over to our regular piece of footage here, we probably do want like this black that's down here. Like this is probably pretty close to the stuff that we want. So let's go ahead and change this lift value here to this. You think if you hold Control or Alt while the color picker, you don't need to disable the node. I mean, I always select Control in order to select this. Is it Alt? I don't know. Either way, that's our lift value right there. And then we're going to find our white highlights of our image, which honestly we could probably get from like this white cloth here. This again, this would be so much easier if we actually went and had color charts done of this shot. If we had color charts, if we had, you know, our reference of what our robot head would look like in that specific lighting. If we had any of those things, we could actually map this way better. But since we don't, we're going to use what we have inside of our scene. I'm probably going to select this guy down here. So we'll select the gain here, and I'll set it to this value. Now I'm going to assume that because this is a little yellowishy, it's going to screw up our colors over here, but let's just see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to disable our adjustments on our framing there, and then now if we do that, you'll notice that right off the bat everything kind of like warms up our colors of our robot head. It makes it less cool, like Hasselhoff was talking about earlier, and it kind of overall matches it. Now we're also getting some adjustments inside of our background here. I don't know if you guys are noticing this or not, but our color values down here, let's select that area right there. We know that it's permanently selected. You notice how that is being adjusted? That's because our lift is adjusting our background as well. So I'm going to add another dot in over here inside of our node setup, and then I'm going to select the mask here and just use the mask of the alpha of our robot head. We don't want to be adjusting anything that's not our specific like alpha of our robot. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do that again, and we'll notice that our color values are not changing, only our robot head itself. And that's going to map everything in quite a bit better. Now, let's say you didn't get a perfect map inside of your CG. Let's say that you didn't have like quite a perfect white, or you didn't have quite a perfect black, or something like that that you were able to select. For us, it was pretty easy. We had white paint, and we actually had a black section of our robot head. We also had a black section of this under the cabinet area, and we also had a white section of literally a white tablecloth or a white shirt or something like that that we could use as our gain values. If you don't have that, which by the way often happens, you can always adjust the mix values here just to get like the rough amount of mix that you want to have, because maybe it's not 100% correct, but it's pretty close. You're just trying to get things into the world, and then maybe you need to add in a color correction after the fact or another grade node, and then adjust the white point there or the gain there. This is where a lot of like that kind of comes in. One of the tricks I saw on Punisher's stream, Clint Jones, he's another YouTuber that does streams for CG stuff. He made a really good suggestion once that I think is kind of cool. He's colorblind, so he can't see stuff how we see it, and maybe it makes it a little harder for him to comp things in. And one way that he does it, now he uses After Effects, which I do not recommend using. One thing that he did was he goes to the actual specific red, green, and blue channels and grades things inside of those specific channels to make sure that as a black and white image, does this look like it sits inside of the environment? This looks a little hot on the green channel, right? And then on the blue channel, maybe it's a little hot as well. Like things are a little high. And so what we can do is we can actually go into our specific channels. Let's say I only want to select the red channels here. Or let's actually go to the blue channels because we know, for instance, that the blue channel is a little hot. Now, another thing to keep in mind is this is the only blue thing inside of the entire shot. So it will be more hot than it probably would otherwise look like. And we don't have a reference of what that should be. But what I can do now is I can actually go here to the white point and I can adjust this and then bring that down a little bit, right? Maybe I want it to sit a little bit lower. And then I can go into this next one and I can make this green. And then if I go to the green channel, I'm just going to bring that down a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. And then I'm going to go to the red channel. Does the red channel look good? Maybe I need another grade node. And then I'm just going to adjust just the red channel, right? And so now if I go back over here, you'll notice that what we're kind of doing is we're manually mapping this stuff ourselves. And this allows you to set things up a little bit nicer. And again, that doesn't look bad. That actually feels like it sits inside of the shot a little bit better than it was before. And that way you don't have to focus on colors of like whole RGB, like how do I, line everything up? You're just looking at it on individual channels, blue, green, red, and doing those individually to be able to get everything to line up a lot better. It's a very simple way of doing it. Black and white images, we all know, like just looking at this black and white image, like if this looks like it sits inside of the environment. But maybe with all the spectrums of color, it can be very complicated because you've got so much that you're trying to match that you don't know. Is it really green? Is it blue? Is it red? What's off about this? I don't know. And then, so the two things that we're really doing is adjusting first, kind of that latitude of the amount of color that the robot head should have. And then we're going in and then fine tuning it. That's really what this whole setup here is doing, is just first creating that range value. What's that contrast supposed to be like on your image? And then going in and making the adjustments on those specific channels. The amount of difference those values changes made though is pretty amazing. Yeah, 100%. Like it's such a small little thing that really like you wouldn't think like goes, oh, that's going to make a huge difference, but it really does. In the end of the day, it really makes it way faster, way easier to match things. So I'm going to take this. Okay. So this is our robot head now that we've got. And honestly, I'm pretty happy with how everything is, though you'll notice that it doesn't quite match. Now, this is because we rendered it out the same resolution as the rest of our footage. And so the rest of our footage has kind of like a bit of this like smudginess to it almost, right? Like it's got like this weird, not sharp, quite thing to it. Whereas the CG stuff is super tack, super sharp, super beautiful. And that is just something that happens when you're creating CG renders, is that the CG itself is going to be super sharp compared to everything else. So we kind of need to smudge this up. We need to make it look less perfect, which is kind of a weird thing to say when you're making CG or really art in general is, oh, I got to make it worse. I got to make it look bad. Well, that's what we're doing. We have to make it look bad in order for it to fit with inside of the rest of our world. So there's a couple ways to do this. First of all, you could just use like a blur node. I don't personally like the way blur blurs. In my opinion, I think blur's not fun. I like the Z defocus method of blurring, and then really not doing that much of a blur. Like this is quite a bit of blur. Let's bring this down to like a really small value, and then let's see. We're probably not going to want to do it on that stack because I think it's screwing up the rest of our reformat stuff. Let me delete this and paste this here. Does that work? And we're just going to add in a little bit more ZD focus. Oh, I just realized, one second, apologize. This is doing that there. And then let's reformat all of that stuff, paste this down here. And then I'm actually going to, we'll add in an expression here, so that way I just only have to do this once. So we're going to call this ZD focus 1 dot size 1.36. It shouldn't be 1.36. It should be defocus. 1 second. Let's figure out what the name of this is. Hover over it. It's called size. Is it just size? What is this? Oh, that's 2.3. Weird. Okay, so we're going to go into here. We're going to do add expression. And we'll do Z defocus 1.size. And then that's going to link the two of these together. So now if I make any adjustments to this one, it's going to adjust both those at the same time. Z defocus is your favorite node in Nuke. Not going to lie, it's fun to play around. 100%. Also, you can make everything match cameras like literally perfect with Z defocus. You haven't used it the way you're using it now, but still a great node. 10 out of 10. 100%. 100%, dude. I agree with you. So now what we're trying to do right now is we're going to try to smudge this just as much as this. You can kind of already tell, like we've already got it pretty close, you know? Like it's not quite there. It's maybe a little too much. So we're going to dial that back a little bit. But, you know, now if we make this adjustment to this one is automatically going to adjust as well because we're just linking the two values. And then the other thing I'd like to do, and this is probably what I should have done before I copy pasted our node here, is I'm going to set this to bladed. I think that just looks a little bit more realistic sometimes. And then I'm going to set, we'll keep the aspect ratio as 1. Although I just did a film that was done in anamorphic. So if you need to adjust this, you could set this to like a 1.5 or something like that. And that's going to stretch out your defocus in a different way, and you can map it to how everything else is done. This is also using bladed, but you can use an image and then you can plug in an image to your defocus. So let's say you're using a Cook lens or something like that. I don't know if you guys ever noticed this on Cook lenses or if you guys ever done films with Cook lenses, but they have like little C's everywhere inside of your bokeh. So if you want to make a custom bokeh, you can totally feed that into Z defocus, and that helps with trying to make everything look exactly like how the camera shot it. Because again, that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to match it to what everything else looks like. Okay, so there you go. That's just adding a little bit of Z defocus, which already kind of like lines everything up a little bit better. Here's what it was before. It was just a little sharp. I mean, hell, we got like all of these like hard lines there, but what we're doing is we're just creating a little bit of Z defocus. It's actually funny. That actually falls off to behind his head there. We're going to say that's creative intent. Okay. That's not a masking issue. That's creative intent. Okay. But yeah, there you go. That's how everything lines up with that. Now let's add in a couple little extra spices to make this a little extra pretty. We're going to go to our head here, and we have these LED lights, and we've got, you know, some of this kind of like specular highlights at the top of the head. We want to make sure that this kind of stuff actually blooms the way the rest of our camera blooms, the way everything else in our whole shot is blooming. And the way for us to do that is to, let's see, probably going to go here. Yeah, it's totally fine. What we're going to need to do is isolate those sections and plus that bloom back on top of it. So I'm going to use let's use a glow node. Like one of my favorite nodes, okay, is the glow node here. And we're going to take this glow node, and right now it's just applying glow to everything, which looks really bad and really ugly. So there's some cool tricks that we can do to try to isolate specific sections and then plus that back on top of everything. First of which, I like to use effect only. If you're using effect only, it's going to only give you the sections of your image that are being affected and then give you only that as the effect. And so what we can then do is then merge this back on top of our footage using a plus operator. But we need to isolate those specific sections, okay? And that's where we use our tolerance. So I'm probably going to use a tolerance of something like yeah, let's use a tolerance of like a 0.5, okay? Somewhere like right here in the middle. So that way we're only getting kind of the most highlighted sections of our shot. We're going to change our brightness here to about 0.7. Whoops, I accidentally mistyped. I'm going to set that to about 0.75. And then we're also going to change our saturation as well to about 0.75. I don't really... Am I fat fingering nonstop here? And so now what we're going to do is we only have kind of like that highlighted section there. And I'm going to change the size of this to something quite a bit smaller. Now, if I go ahead and grab this and merge this back over top of everything, I'm going to do that down here where the rest of our image is. Now, it's a black image with our highlights. So what we need to do then is use a plus. And now you'll notice that it's going to add like this extra little nice bloom to everything else. The reason why I did this all the way down there instead of before that robot head merges is because I wanted it to bloom over areas that were not the robot head, right? And that's essentially what we're trying to do. And now we can adjust the amount that this is merging here. I probably go with something about there. 0.72 looks nice. That's just going to give us that extra little bloom to the rest of our shot. Again, we're just trying to match like the amount of bloom that other parts of the image that have heavy highlights on are getting. So really use references of how your camera that you're shooting on is working. And that's where like looking at the rest of your project and really just like analyzing how the camera lens as well as the camera sensor itself is interpreting a lot of this stuff. So yes, that's good. Now let's add another glow node in. I think this probably take another glow node of let's change the tolerance here and then do effect only again. This time I'm probably going to have less of a tolerance. Oh, it's not, that's the size. Let's do like a 0.02. So this is kind of just like everything in general. And then again, I'll probably just do the brightness here. Let's do half brightness with half of saturation. So a real black and white version of that. I'll set this to like a 20 or something like that, which blurs it quite a bit. Again, effect only. Merge this as the A over top of, actually probably put this before our other merge, okay? And again, let's do this as a plus. And we'll mix this over top of everything. About half, probably. Might even be too much. Let's bring that down a little bit. Like that. Something really subtle, but it's totally there. Just clean that up a little bit, and then we'll just change the size, I think. And give a life to a lot of like the overall, because again, we're shining a lot of light off the top of the head here, and we want that to really reflect. So let's go ahead and play that back, see how that is. See how everything's working here. I probably should also, I could probably isolate specifically the eyes and make those glow a little bit more. I don't think they're quite as bright as I would have wanted them to be. Unfortunately, I don't have a matte layer of those individual dots on the eyes, but we can probably create one pretty easily. So actually, let's do that. I'm going to use, and we're going to do a couple things here. First of all, we're going to use a crypto map. All right. So create another crypto map, similar as before. And we have that whole flat section of the eyes that we can isolate. So instead of using objects, we're going to use materials. And you'll notice that we actually have this as a separate material. So we can go ahead and select that. And now we've got just that area as an alpha channel. And so if I add another glow node in, if we add another glow node in, like so, let's see, we're going to change the tolerance here to that probably. If we use a merge node, just with that, I'm going to reformat all that jazz, just like everything else. Now we just have the section of the eyes here. We can change the size of this and the amount of brightness that this stuff has. And then again, we just take this whole thing and we merge it over top of the rest of our image with another plus. Now we can just change the amount of glow that we're doing here. So what we're doing is we're still isolating the bright areas, but then we're using a merge node here to mask out everything except for the section of the eyes. One thing you're curious about is how you handle the shadow of the head on everything in the shot. I don't know if it's something you have to worry about with this shot in particular, though. No, I don't think it's something that I have to worry about in this shot. Also, because he does have a real head, so that real head is actually creating shadows on everything else. If I didn't, I probably would end up creating like a 3D topology of like the chest and shoulders area inside of the Blender render, and then that shadow would have been created artificially that way, and then we could have then comped it in on top of everything. That's probably the best way to do it because we already have lighting set up inside of Blender. That's probably the way I would recommend doing it, is match moving that shoulders and head and chest section, and that head would naturally create that shadow, and then you would just merge that over top of everything. You don't have to recreate the material of the shirt, you just basically have to have it as a shadow catcher that you can then use in here. But I don't think in this shot specifically it's going to be that big of a problem. Also because the actor does have a head. It's just not the robot head. So his head is already creating a shadow of some kind on his shirt. The only thing it's really not doing is if we had any LED lights that were around his jaw or head or anything like that, those LED lights should be casting a light onto the shirt, but we don't have any of that stuff. So, but that's a great question. It is something to consider for sure. But that's at least how I would tackle it if that were the case. Okay, cool. So, what did I just do? That's right. We added a little bit of a glow to that. I'm probably going to make this... Let's make it a little bigger. And then this plus here, we're just going to bring it down. I'm also going to do myself a favor here. Let's go up to our initial EXRs that we have. There's actually quite a bit of noise in this shot. Not actually sure if I denoised it at all. I'm looking through my previous nodes. That's a DMP. Yeah, these are just regular EXRs. Let's go look at this real quick. So we actually do have quite a bit of noise in the shot. This is how I do this stuff now. I actually, guys, I bit the bullet, all right? I did it. I bought Neat Noise, okay? 1000% recommend it. I have it at like my actual day job. We use Neat Video all the time. It's the freaking best. It's just a little pricey. I'm not going to lie. It's a little pricey, but 1000% worth it. So I finally got it so that way I could have it on my home computer. Amazing. You know what? If anybody from Neat Video is watching, I already bought it, so I don't need you guys to give me a free copy or anything like that. But it'd be awesome if you guys could give me discount codes to give out to people watching, because that would be super cool. Great piece of software to creating denoised versions of your shot. I'm actually going to, let's just use auto profile real quick. Okay, use that gray section. That's probably a good section to do. And so then now what we're going to do is we applied that noise into our shot here. And then you can see, oh my God, look at that. Completely denoises our shot to this pristine, beautiful, crispy camera shot without any noise in it, guys. This is freaking amazing. Now, one thing I recommend is, since we're using this as our source here, it's a little heavy on your comp. So I like to render it out again. So we're going to do that. I'm going to just render it out again. I'm going to put it under pre-render, and we're going to create a new one called denoise. And then under denoise, I'm going to call this denoise dot 123.4.exrs and create directory. I'm going to save that real quick. We'll just render this out. This is our denoised version of our EXRs, and this is super important because we will be reapplying the noise afterwards. And we're going to be using DOS grain. If you guys have DOS grain, grab it. Or if you don't have DOS grain, grab it. If you do have it, then awesome. just go get it. It's on Nukepedia. It's also part of like what Hasselhoff is that? Nuke survival tools. What is that? How do you like? There's a package I think that has like a bunch of stuff in it. It's free. You're so proud of me. Thank you. But anyways, here's your denoise, okay? And we're just gonna bring that on in, and then we'll just replace this top with this read node from here. Yeah, Nuke Survival Toolkit, and it's free, guys. It's free, okay? So I'm gonna take this this image up here. What I usually like to do is then just grab this and bring it to the bottom of our comp. And yeah, let's do that. And then I'm going to put a dot here. Let's just try to, all of this was just extra, but I'm just putting that down there. Okay. Our view layer. And then we've got our initial grained EXRs here that we're rendering out into this denoise. You leave that there if you ever need a re-render. Totally great way of doing that. Otherwise, we're going to add in DOS grain, which again, you can grab. It's just a nice little node to have inside of your Nuke toolkit. It's Nuke survival toolkit, because you gotta survive, guys. I'm going to go ahead and add in a dot here. And so our degrained plate that we have, we plug into that there. And then our regular plate, this is going to be your grained plate. So you have your degrained plate, and then you have your grained plate, and these should just match each other, okay? And then grab this degrained plate here, and then we're just going to go ahead and plug this all the way at the top. And I'm just going to hit the hide input button. Great. So now if we go into our DOS grain here, you'll notice that this right here has your degrained stuff. Oh my goodness, I just realized also what's going on. Our clean plate that we had, you should really do this before everything, but when I started this live stream tutorial series, I didn't own Neat Video. So now that I have it, I am using it, but that also means that I might need to redo some of my stuff, because our digital matte painting that we created does actually have grain inside of it. It's actually got a bunch of ugly guggy stuff inside of it too. So let's do that. I don't know if that's actually gonna prepare noise profile. Let's go to input. I'll probably add a frame range in. You have not selected frame from the clip. What are you talking about? You totally have. Auto profile this. I don't know why the reduce grain isn't doing anything. What we can do though, okay, so this is just clean plating everything. That's creating the HDRI. So this is creating your digital matte painting source. Since this is already clean plated here, let's actually recreate our clean plates, because this needs to be done right. We must do things right, people. So we're going to go back to our streams. I believe it's from this folder here, and then material, and then we've got our digital matte painting. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is the one that we need to recreate, which is on frame 1000. So render this out. Frame 1000. We're going to open up Photoshop. We just need to recreate this clean plate that we did before. This is why you should own your software before you start doing a live stream, guys. That's what it's all about. Okay. Probably open up this guy, right? It's probably the right guy to pull up. There we go. And now you'll notice that this is not clean, so we'll go into here. Oopsies. Probably should have done that at full screen. Oh, wait, no, that's clean. Where did the, oh, that went to there. Right. My bad, guys. Let's go ahead and delete that. Go back to full screen. Pull in our dude again. You notice how that's clean now? Beautiful. So now I'm going to go all the way to the bottom here. And what we're really trying to do is recreate some of this other sections. So I'm just going to select these guys. And then we're just going to hit generate again. It's probably the easiest way of doing this. We just have to regenerate everything. Okay. That one's good. Then we grab this guy. And we're just going to hit generate again. Just regenerate. We already created all the masks. We basically just need to regenerate. Regenerate. Probably be actually faster for me not to do it this way, but you know what it is. That looks good. And then this one right here, and I don't know, does that make it look all wacky? I think it does. Just hit that guy, hit regenerate. Probably not use, there we go, that looks good. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and export this now as a new PNG. Probably going to, let's see, take this to the live streams folder. Just save this as a new DMP, baby. Let's go. Version 2. Save. And let's go ahead and re-import our digital matte painting. Okay. Now, let's go back to the bottom of our comp here for everything. And you'll notice that we have this ugliness there, and that's because of our digital matte painting. So now if we replace our digital matte painting, should have everything super clean now. What else changed? A bottle changed. You know what? It actually fixed ugliness right there. Break free from that Adobe overlords, use Photopea instead. Yeah, but dude, Photoshop has the crazy AI stuff in it. And you know what? I can hand paint. Believe me, I did that for years. But also, AI paintouts is freaking insane. I gotta say. I mean, you're right about the AI or the Photoshop overlords. They own you. Okay, so under DOS grain now, I'm gonna go ahead and set up the grain settings so that way we can reapply our grains. This is what the shot looked like before with all of its kind of ugly grain, not gonna lie, but sometimes you like that ugly grain. And a lot of productions, by the way, they want your grain to match 1 for 1. You can't have different grain. It's got to be exactly the same. So what we're going to do is we're literally going to do that. We're going to copy the grain from this shot here, compare it to our degrained version of our shot, and then reapply the grain. I don't know if you guys can see that too well on the live stream, but that's what it's doing, right? This is grained version, non-grained version. So now if we go to our DOS grain, we can go ahead and compare the two elements. And what we're going to do is we're going to use replace, we're going to use active, and it's going to give us this little box here, and probably just line this right up here with the background section of our grain. And that's all good. And then analysis, we're going to go into here and we're going to hit analyze. And it's just going to analyze the two different pieces of footage, both the red, green, and blue channel, not both, all three, the red, green, blue channel. And then it's going to recreate that grain. So now if we have this grain, we can disable it and re-enable it, and that works really nicely. We can compare it to the original grain and just see how well it duplicated everything over, and it looks pretty dang close, guys. It looks pretty dang close. And again, you can go to your blue channel, compare specifically the blue channel, see how it's interacting with the grain there. You'll notice that the shadows are a little bit darker and everything like that. And then also with the green channel, it will have the least amount of grain in it. And then your red channel, well, depending on your camera, I actually think certain cameras have more grain on green versus red. I believe like an RE or a red camera has more grain on the green channel than it does on the red channel, whereas an RE Alexa has more grain on the red channel instead of the green channel. So depending on which cameras you're using is really where that grain is going to live. And it's not like one's better than the other. It's just that's how the camera sensors were created. But yeah, there you go. Now we've got our grain reapplied into our shot. I'm going to turn off our brightness effect that we're doing there. Let's play this back and see what this looks like. With grain and everything, we've got our little blooms in there. We adjusted our color grade. Really, guys, I spent what I've been streaming for an hour and or so. I don't know. It's been about an hour, and all we've really done is add 3 grain nodes or grade nodes in. Hey, that's what it is, man. That's what it is. Let's see. I want to do this. How do you do this? I want to copy that. 1 second. Start another thingy thing. And that. And that. And that. And there you go. That looks pretty cool, guys. What do you guys think? I'm not a huge fan of like the eyes going like that. I'd probably re-render it without the eyes doing like the little thing going downwards, but I'm not gonna lie, this actually works really nicely. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. Yeah, dude. That works for me. Let's see. Analyzing. I'm just watching it. There is some paint out issues, by the way. I don't really want to fix it. But there are issues with the shot. But I mean, hey, it works. I think from a CG perspective, it actually looks pretty nice. I like it. Let's go ahead and render this out. I'm going to show you guys how to cut this back into our editorial sequence that we have. I'm going to go ahead and also just save our Photoshop file here. I'll re-upload the Photoshop file so that way there's a new version on the Patreon in case anybody wanted to use that. Kind of like the eyes, if there was a voice line that was, I don't know, tired bartender that is so done with someone's bullshit, I think it'd work. It's like so done with the humans. You know, what's the line? Give me a line. I'll record one. Let's do it. Let's do it. Why not? I mean, this stream is pretty quick. I got plenty of time to do stuff like that. Let's close that. Let's go ahead and render it out. And so that way I'm going to show you guys some of my render settings that I like to use. So after our DOS grain, we're going to want to render this out as our final shot. There's a couple things to note. If you're doing any type of like these match move things where like the camera's moving and weird stuff, I like to reapply the alpha so that way there's not any like weirdness inside of it. So let's go ahead and just do some of the stuff that I would normally do before I send this back over to the DI, which is the digital intermediate where they color grade and everything like that, or it goes back to editorial or whatever. So here's a couple things that I would probably do in order to send this back to them. First of which, I'll use a shuffle node, and there might be a better way of doing this. This is the way I always do it, okay? I use a constant, and then using this constant, I'm just going to set the color value to 1, and then if you set this to the A of the shuffle, from here we can take the RGB value and then reapply the alpha, or drag any of these colors and put it directly into the alpha. What this does is it basically makes it so that the alpha is completely the entire image and isn't just, you know, portions of it. And sometimes there's some weird like multiplication that's happening inside of your comp where you're only having like a sliver and it creates like this weird issue. Couldn't tell you why it does that. Sometimes it does that. When it's going over into like Baselight or DaVinci Resolve or any of that kind of stuff. That's a better way of doing it. Expression node and 1 in the alpha. We're gonna try it. We're just gonna test this out even. So let's go here, and that's our thing. So technically that's the alpha of our image. Yo, that's actually super cool. Hasselhoff, this is why I keep you around, man. Dude, that's awesome. That's amazing. That's so much easier. Holy crap. Do that, everybody. Expression node with 1 in the alpha. Holy cow. You know, of course there's a node for it. I was just overcomplicating it. Like as per usual, overcomplicating it. That's the name of the game for me, I guess. That is awesome. Hasselhoff, you every week blow my mind with another trick. Okay, great. So this is just going to reapply the alpha. So he could be saying something like, say that to me again, I dare you. Oh, yeah, that could be good. I like that line. Okay, so there we go. We're going to add that expression in, which sets up our alpha. And now all we have to then do is render this out. Normally I split this off to 2 different sections. I have a proxy render that I can create as well as EXRs. But for us, I'm just going to render this out specifically. You also use a shuffle and a constant. Always felt a bit messy. Yeah, that's the way I always do it. I just have always done it that way. And it's actually part of my default tool set that I created. So now I'm just going to update it to use this expression. That's a way better way of doing it. For us, though, I do want to show you guys one cool thing. So let's just say this is going to a colorist, right? And maybe they want to make some slight tweaks and adjustments to like specific parts. Overall, you may want to send just the robot head to them, in which case we can use a shuffle node. And with this shuffle node, let's just create a dot here that I can connect stuff to. We may want just the head, okay? So like this is just like maybe the eyes, right? Maybe they do want just the eyes. Maybe they want just the big portion of the head or something like that. I don't know. But you can apply this to any part of the stack of any of the alphas, right? And so this is just going to give us all of the head, okay? And maybe all of the head's good, but maybe you want the collar to be cut out. So let's just add a merge node in here. I'm going to do this exactly how I would normally do this, right? So we're going to do that, and then let's say this whole number, we're then going to actually have to stabilize it and all that jazz. So that stabilizes it. And this reformat node, let's plug into the top up here. Use a dot as well, so that way I can hide the input. Okay, and then here we're just going to put a merge node in. And then this merge node will take the collar, like his front collar here. Let's take that guy, and we're just going to chop it out. And we'll say invert that selection. So now we have just the areas that the collar is not in front of. And that's the entirety of the head, okay? So let's just say we wanted to feed now this into our our whole stack. So we're going to do another match move. Copy another match move here. Place that at the bottom. So now we've got just that. And that's going to go into this shuffle here. I'm just going to, again, move everything down. Okay. So now if we go to our shuffle node, from this A input, we're going to take just the alpha. And I'm going to create a new mask layer. Call this new. And then we're going to call this, let's just do robot head alpha. Okay. And now we can swap that directly into there. You'll notice that under our RGBA now, we have robot head. That's a separate channel that the colorist will be able to use to actually grade stuff. And that's very useful sometimes. So you can give just the eyes, you can give just maybe the ears or like different parts. That's really useful, actually more so in animation. Because oftentimes consistency is not quite there. And sometimes the colorist may want like the eyes to be brighter in animation because it's very specific and artistic to be able to see somebody's expressions and stuff like that. This is where being able to shuffle different channels into your output EXRs can be incredibly useful. So that way the colorist can really adjust things on their end. You won't say the shuffle nodes are overused, but it's weird that you constantly need them to sort through whatever files you have when the image node you want is already there. Yeah, I probably agree with that. Although I will say that like oftentimes, at least with EXRs, you have so many different AOVs that it becomes very useful to use the shuffle node, because maybe you're not just using RGB channels, maybe you're using normals, maybe you're using a position pass or a UV pass or ambient occlusion or any of that kind of stuff that could be coming out of rendering. And that's where shuffles are quite useful, because you're not going to have a depth map be on the same channel as your RGBA. So you know, that's where shuffling comes in really handy. So you're going to use shuffling regardless. And in this particular instance, we're shuffling stuff back into our stream of our EXRs. So that way it can go to other people and be used in other areas. It's a folder with a shuffle node. You select the file you want to open. It's a folder. And with the shuffle node, you select the file you want to open. It's a folder. I don't know what you're talking about, Hasselhoff. Are you talking about like with inside, you could think of it as like a folder? I suppose that's the way of thinking of it. I always like to embed all of my EXRs into one file, which makes them very heavy, by the way. Sometimes they could be like 75 megabits per or kilobyte, or 75 megabytes per second, or megabits per frame. Holy cow, my brain is breaking. Okay, great. Now, you'll notice that if we go to our right node, okay, we now need to render out our EXRs. So I'm going to go ahead and render this to an output folder. So let's create a new folder out here called comp. I'm just going to call this VFX_comp. And then inside of here, we're going to call this version 1 / we'll just do the date. Or no, it's VFX 10. .exr. I'm going to do create directory is going to be the setting here. Now this is super important. Right now, if we go back up here, you'll notice that we only have the RGB channels. We don't have anything else. Now, why is that? Oh, which, by the way, we're going to want to add a crop node in here so that way we're not rendering out any extra data on the sides. But we'll notice that we only have our RGB channels. We don't have that robot head that we created. And that's because under our channels here, we are not selecting the robot head. We are only selecting RGB. So we could easily do this by just saying all channels. And now it's going to render out specifically the RGBA as well as the robot head. If there were any channels that you don't want to render, you can do the remove channel one, and you can remove stuff very easily. That's just a way of doing that. Again, we're going to render this out as default scene linear. Let's hope it doesn't break to the point where you start misreading the chat. I don't misread chat, man. I never misread chat. I don't ever misread chat. I don't want you bringing up the Alibi situation, okay? Let's not talk about that. We're not talking about the Alibi situation this week. Oh my gosh. All right, great. And we're going to use zip compressions for our files, EXRs. Everything else looks great. Let's go ahead and just hit the render button now and hit that to global and render that out. Once this is finished rendering, we can go ahead and bring it back into DaVinci Resolve, which I've been talking about making a tutorial for months now about this part of the process, because I have one about making visual effects plates. You guys go check that out. It's about making ACES VFX plates. Of course, we do this on our live streams all the time, but I made an actual video for it. I'll show you this on the live stream now, how to bring your stuff back in. But I will make a whole separate tutorial just over that stuff. So that way, you know, you guys have everything in one location. I'm going to go ahead and open up DaVinci Resolve. And so that way we can bring in our VFX shot and cut that in. DaVinci Resolve, baby. One of the best editing softwares in the world. I will never go back to editing on Premiere. Holy cow. And I've tried Avid. It's just, man, I am not an Avid editor. I'll tell you that right now. Let's open up our bar scene now. That's our reflection render. Let's open up our main timeline. Okay, so here's our whole shot. Now everything is being viewed weirdly right now, and that's just because our color management settings are using our output as ACES CG. We just swap this back to like Rec 709 or something like that. Very easy. Let's swap that back. Boom. Now we can see everything inside of our shot. But we still have our other dude. Hey man, you're not supposed to be there. But this is our shot, that, or our sequence that we're editing, and we want to put our robot here instead of this guy. Okay, we don't want this guy here anymore. All right, so we'll go to our media tab here, and we're just going to find our VFX shot. Let's see, projects and streams, and yeah, that should be the correct folder. VFX comp version 1. Beautiful. So here's our VFX shot that we have. Now you're going to notice everything here, this VFX shot is super dark. And so it doesn't match everything at all. And that's as expected, because DaVinci Resolve doesn't know what the heck to do with it right now. DaVinci Resolve is surprisingly quite user-friendly. You won't say it's easy to learn, but it's not overly complex. That is true. That is very true. Okay. Now, all we have to do with our footage now that we've dropped this guy in is we just have to right-click this, and then we just go to input color space is basically what we need to do. ACES input transform. And right now it's thinking that it's 709 footage when we know it's not. We know that it's ACES CG footage. So we need to be able to select that from our list here instead of 709, because it's not 709. And that's all because our input color space up here is saying that everything is Rec 709. So there's a couple ways we could do this. First of which, we can swap our color science out just to color managed. We can uncheck the automatic color management settings. And then I like to have it set to Rec 709 2.4 gamut. Okay. This is now still going to look correct, because the input color space of this stuff, we can swap this over here. You see that says Rec 709. This is all selected as Rec 709. Now, our footage here, we just need to be able to tag this guy. So we just right click that, go to input color space, tag this as ACES CG. And voila, that should match pretty closely. The only reason why it wouldn't match perfectly is if this footage here is tagged incorrectly, which is very possible that it is. Let's go back over here to input and then set this to Rec 709, which I'm not quite sure. Usually you could do Rec 709 2.4 gamut, and for some reason it's only having scene right now. sRGB, it's not that. There it is, Rec 709 2.4 gamut. Let's go back over here, input. I don't know, for some reason it's all the way under miscellaneous. Rec 709 2.4 gamut. So now if you look at the two of these should match pretty dang close, which I don't, again, not quite sure why they're not matching perfectly. They should. I have to look into that. The Rec 709 thing's throwing me off. But there you go. There's our sequence cut in. And then we could do our audio voice, guys. I love that so much. That looks great. Let's see. I'm going to open up... Let me open up this up here. Let me log in. I have this subscription to Universal's music for creators website. And then they have a whole sound effects library that we can work with as well. Let's explore the sound effects. Okay, great. I'm logged in. I'm logged in. I'm plugged in, boys. Okay, let's go here. Bar. Oh, I'm not going to be able to hear it. 1 second. Let's, Can you guys not hear the music now? I don't know how this works. I don't know if how this works, guys. Let's hear if I can hear the thing. Can you guys hear the bar? Did you guys hear the bar? Did you guys hear the bar sound effects? I'm hearing myself talk, which is also throwing me off. Did you guys hear the bar sound effects when I did that? or not? You hear it slightly? Okay, if you can hear it slightly, that's all that really matters. Let's turn it up a little bit. We're going to turn it up. I'm going to check my OBS also. I actually don't know if you guys are listening to desktop sounds or if you're listening to like... Oh yeah, you should be able to hear it. I'll turn this up even. No, he's not cleaning. We're going to start with this. Oh my gosh. I'm not a sound mixer, guys. I'm a VFX artist, but today we are getting out of our element. Oh boy. Let's do, that's the bar. Let's do disco music background. Disco music background party. I don't know. Bar background. Nothing that I wanted. Disco music. You not listening to me? I need disco music. Yeah, no. I want to dance. Guys, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. Oh my gosh. Okay, wait a second. Let's do disco music. Where's that background bar music? Yeah, that's working.
When you hear the rhythm, start to move.
Nightclub. All right, we're going to go with that. We're going to put it way in the background. No one's ever going to hear it anyways. It doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm spending so much time finding music that no one's going to listen to. So let's do that. And we're going to learn how to do stuff today, guys. I'm not a sound mixer, so we're just going to... Okay, and then next up, let's do playback real quick, and then do caching. Let's see, render cache, user, and then I'm going to select this guy, and then do... What's the button again? It's the freaking... This is how you guys know that I don't use this every day. Render cache color output. Booyah, baby. So we're just going to cache that. And then let's select this, go to the audio settings for it. Oh my gosh, we're going to adjust the... this is so much. This is so much. Pitch, reverb, soft clipper, stereo. Meg, good enough. Totally. Oh no. It's Fairlight effects, that's audio effects. Basically need to EQ this, right? Is that what I need to do? There we go. Equalizer. Is it the equalizer that I want? And then adjust the volume to be a little lower. It's pretty close. It's a little too present. There we go. Yeah, it sounds more like a radio, baby. Dude, I spent last week just sitting in sound sessions watching an actual professional do this. I don't do this stuff, but I saw him press a thing that looked like this. So I'm like, there's a thing. Come watch Connor Thomas's YouTube channel on learning how to do audio for, things. One second. Let's just turn this off for right now. Okay, that's good enough for me. That's actually pretty sweet. That's actually better than I was expecting. Oh, it's not good. Let's do music remixer. What the heck is a music remixer? I don't want to know. Let's turn the volume down a little bit more. And then... Dude, you got that bass, man. That's some crazy bass. What is that? Oh, that's cool. That's actually not terrible, honestly. I mean, it is, but it's not terrible, okay? It's not like as bad as I was thinking it was going to be. Oh no. Sounds more like someone doing a karaoke next door. Yeah. One second. We're getting to it. We're getting there. We're getting there. All right. It's a bit of tweaking. Yeah, it's not the right. Okay, let's mix in some crowd people talking or something like that. Or let's do wiping count. How do you... Oh my god. Oh my god. Wiping counter. Not whipping. We're not whipping the counter. We're not whipping it. Oh, that's good. That's good. Let's do that. Let's do... When we see his hand, there it goes. Right about there is when he stops. Something like that. A little quieter. Not as quiet. Probably bottles stopping around here. And starting up over there. Okay. We're layering it, guys. We're layering it. I need like hydraulics or something like that. Hydraulics. Oh my gosh. Hydraulics. Oh my gosh, it's too big. It's way too big. Mechanical. 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 That's like actually kind of close.
Sound.
Yeah, not quite. I mean, that's how they were doing like a lot of these like stuff for like Star Wars, like how they created all the sounds for that. I just went and recorded a bunch of random crap. Man, I'll tell you, there is an art form to this, and it ain't something that I think I have. What?
Alright, here's the regular. Right, these are links modules. Let it come out to me. Close.
Freight doors. Oh, footsteps, baby. Let's go. Mechanic fishing line? I kind of like the idea that he walks up to start cleaning the thing. I know that wasn't what I was looking for, but, you know, honestly, that's not a bad idea either. Let's do that, something like that. Guys, we did like almost nothing, and I'm proud already. Let's do like a crowd or talking. I don't like a couple people talking. Like we don't want a lot of people to. Just like a small.
Probably won't really get started till 10:30.
Nah.
Good, we bought those tickets online though.
Probably won't get started till 10:30. No, probably not. You got a cup of tea? Like,
I mean, it's an artist's proof.
Right, I know.
yeah, it's an artist's proof.
What the hell is that? I haven't even seen it.
That's right.
Well, all you have to do is experiment.
That's very funny.
Okay, that's good. I like that. I don't even know what they're talking about, but it sounds legitimate, you know? That one. British. British representation, baby. We need more British representation in Hollywood. Okay, we're going to take that volume down it. Less volume. Let's take the equalizer. We're equalizing. That's actually not bad, guys. I'm a pro. I kind of want the robot sounds. That's what we're going for, guys. We need a robot sound here. Let's also, for this, I was going to do this from the very beginning. 2, 3, 5 cropping. Voila, voila. Next up, let's see. Did I have a transform on that at all? I don't think I did. But we're going to transform that down a little bit. Dude, I always save. I always save. I hit that save button all the time, man. Let's reframe that a little bit. The head's gonna be a little higher. I'll just bring that down a little bit as well. We're making some editorial decisions right now, guys. I need him sipping here. We need a sip. 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 Sipping. Oh. Oh, the good old wine sip. Guys, this is an ASMR live stream. Probably just lost like 20 viewers because of that. It's all good. You guys don't know what you really want. Glass clink? Glass clink? Gargling noise in there too, and that's why the robot looks angry at it. Oh, dude, that's good. That's good. Gargling. I don't know how to spell gargling. Water bubbles. Oh no. Water pipes, sea lions, water, sea lions, dogs, sea lions, household, bathroom, sink, shower. Guys. Is there no... I don't know what I'm listening to right now. I don't... What was it? Yeah, I vote for the gargling noise. I don't know about the gargling noise right now, guys. Human sip gargle. Is that how you spell gargle? That's actually. Yeah. Someone does that, I would give them the stinky eye too. Okay? Come on, man. Why are we not playing back at real time right now? Okay, for purposes of myself, we're gonna also render out a proxy version of this because this is going to editorial, right? Editorial don't need no crap where it's not rendering and all that stuffs. Okay, so proxy.mov. And then I'm gonna just output this as 709. Totally cool. Render, global. That's all good to go. Render that. It's not playing back real time. We need it to play back at real time, so that's what we do. 2 minutes? Come on, guys. Stretch time. I think I'm like jittering. The render is taking up quite a bit of my bandwidth on my computer here. We saved though, boys. We saved. We hit that save button. Also, DaVinci Resolve like basically live saves it to its database, so even if it crashes, we're good. How you guys doing? What you up to? So I have a good weekend? Yeah, man. Pretty good. Not bad. Not bad. Gonna try to watch the Super Bowl here in an hour or so, so that'll be fun. Other than that, just, playing video games, and I tried to chill this weekend because for the last few weeks I've been working through the weekends, so this weekend was really a lay low kind of weekend. Tomorrow I'm meeting up with to start work on a pre-production for a new film, so that'll be fun. But yeah, other than that, it's just been kind of chill, hang out. How you guys doing? Okay, that's good. Let's go to the comp folder here, and I'm just going to import the proxy. And then we just want to snap that, so that way I could just replace it pretty easily. There we go. I don't think that was quite... What is going on here? I need that to line up with that. Is it not the right length? For some reason, it's not the right length, and I don't quite know why. So we'll do that. Okay, we're back at it, boys. Maybe a bit of a burp or something. I don't know. I need a clink. Let's do glass clink.
Dat index number 6. Dat index number.
Honestly, that kind of works. I'm just going to muffle it a little bit more. PC specs? Honestly, nothing crazy, man. I am running, I think, a 3080 Ti inside of my computer. That's probably the most expensive thing inside of my computer, but everything else is pretty standard. A little loud. Bring that down a little bit. And might want to, I don't know, let's pitch it down a little. No. Ain't pitching it down. Let's equalize that. It's a little tangy almost, but a little quiet. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. I don't know. Oh my gosh! That's a bit much. It's also just like kind of not the right sound. Let's do this. Let's do... There we go. It's too long. And then let's -1 pitch semitone that. There we go, baby. Now the robot voice. What was that robot line? Oh my gosh. You said it a while ago. You said it one a while ago. Say that to me again, I dare you. But what did he say? Maybe it's more like, because now we're going with the gargle thing. He could be like, you want to gargle any louder? Or something like that. I don't know. What's the voice, guys? What's the words? I need some words. Droids only. Also, hate this color grade, so let's do that while you guys are thinking of... Give me a line. Somebody direct me here. I need a line. Let's do LUTs. I have some custom LUTs that I brought on in. Film looks. Just looks terrible. Just gonna swap through a couple of these. Is that these? What are these? These aren't beautiful. These are... Wait, my LUTs. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Let's do no LUT selected, and then let's add the LUT over here. Nopey. I don't really know any of these off the top of my head, so I'm just kind of doing them. That's not... I mean, it's just whatever. And I'm not a colorist, boys, so I ain't gonna do this from scratch, alright? I got friends that are actually good at that. That ain't me. I don't like that either. Looks too pinky. Ugh. The Star Wars bartender, hey droids only, is kind of fun to think about. It's kind of ugly, guys. Kind of ugly. That's not bad. Let's grab still and then it's fine. Just apply it. Oh, it's ugly, man. I hate how crunchy it is. It like looks terrible. I don't like it. I don't like it. Oh, what the heck? Oh, wait a second. Whoa. Today's live stream session is about me doing a bunch of stuff that I don't like. Actually, that works. Let's do that one. So we'll do this. Let's do grab still. And then if we go to our gallery now, we've got this new still. Boys, we got a new still. Back over here. Low key. Let's just drop back over to our VFX EXRs. And then apply the same color grade to it. There we go. I don't like what it's doing with the blues. I'm not liking it. Let's do reset nodes, and then we're gonna change the saturation slightly here. Let's take the shadows and bring those down slightly. Let's bring up the gain here a little bit. Let's just pop a little bit of contrast into our shot and change the temp here. And then let's do the lift. We can bring that down a little bit. And then we're screwing with this, guys. We're gonna do our own thing. I like that. Let's add another node after the fact. And then if we go to grain, we're going to add some film grain onto this thing. Let's do like a nice, I like me some nice fine grain. To our shot. That's nice. We like that. And then from here, we grab that as a still. We can go and just apply this thing to it. That looks way better than those LUTs, I'm not going to lie. Still, the head moving around needs to have like a bit of a robot sound to it. That's what's got to happen here. It's actually or whatever, you know? I think that's what we're missing here. Let's do mechanical. Mechanical.
Sizes.
We want like a. What would that be called? Okay, there's portions of that I like. I don't like the big sounds, but I do like the smaller sounds. We like the smaller sounds. Let's do that. I like this section here, for instance. And then let's cut out that section and that section, and we like this. We don't know what he's doing off camera, but he's doing something, you know? Like that's the secret of life, man. Just do some more of that audio there. Okay. Now we've got this hidden. That's going to be our EXRs. I just want to view our proxy in between just to... And then let's see if I can get like a rotating piece. Let's blend that in over top of everything here. Then slow that down slightly. Let's do like a 80%. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? 80%. Maybe a little slower. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Inch it that way. That's right. A little quieter too, you know? That's almost good. Let's just change this clip speed to a solid 100. We're going to find that other loud part. So like... you gotta go to bed now? Oh man, gotta go now. Love seeing the progress. Or I don't even. Sorry, I misread that. You gotta go. But hey, I appreciate you dropping in. The finished stream, by the way, for all these you who have not joined our Discord before or yet, I'm gonna be posting over on our Discord. Looks like my YouTube actually just crashed up there, but the link to that is right here. You guys can join the Discord, and I'd love to see some of your guys' work as you guys are doing stuff as well. Make sure to join the Discord. Link is right there. But yeah, we're just finishing this up. Everything's a little loud. I think this is a little too loud. Overall, the robot's a little loud too. So let's bring everything down about like 4 dB on that. Let's do about 4 dB on this and about 4 dB on that as well. Okay. That's looking like it's pretty good to me. Now let's see. We got the lines probably going to be like, all right, kid, got to scram. I don't know what's, you know what? Let's see. What would a droid bartender say to a human making loud noises at the bar? What would the droid say? ChatGPT for the win. Volume detects at excessive levels. Would you like a drink to lubricate your vocal circuits, or should I activate my noise suppression protocol? Statistically, excessive noise leads to decreased drink enjoyment. I calculate a 97% chance that calm demeanor results in better service. Another night of organic malfunctions. Would you like to drink or just continue your audio disturbance routine? Oh my gosh. None of these are good. I mean, they're all kind of lame. They're all slightly lame. They're just not quite there. I don't know if I'm going to have him say anything if I'm just, this is a little loud, I think, or let's do this at a -10. Okay. I think that's going to be it for this. This is looking pretty solid to me. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. What do you guys think? Oh, whoops. My bad. Let's keep that there. Oh. Yeah, I think that's going to do it right there. Hey, guys, before I end the stream, I did put inside of the goals or whatever, if somebody uses a super chat, then I would do a raffle for the getting the what's it called? Oh my gosh, why is my brain blanking? Patreon membership. Currently I only got one person that entered the raffle for that. So the winner of that, I'm gonna actually give you guys like a couple minutes if you guys want to do that or not. Just shoot over a super chat, and I guess you'll be entered into the raffle for today's live stream onto the Patreon. The Patreon, of course, gets to download all of the project files of this live stream, as well as all previous live streams, as well as our Surface Imperfections pack and other exclusive content. But I'm gonna let you guys do that for the next couple minutes here. I'm just gonna finish that up. But this was been a fun stream. I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's certainly like a cool little thing. I'm gonna disable that and re-enable our main character here. Yeah, don't always get to do things like this, so this is always fun to experiment with creating CG heads and all of that stuff. But okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and A drum roll, please. Oh, I mean, there's no drum roll. The winner of today's raffle is going to be CMD. I'm going to message you over on Discord. I know you're over on Discord, and I'll give you a link to a free Patreon, 1 month of Patreon. Of course, for thank you so much for the super chat for today's stream. Other than that, I want to give a special shout out to our other wonderful Patreon members here. You guys are super awesome. You guys help make these live streams run and everything like that. That's it for today's live stream. We'll be back next week with a brand new live stream. So if you guys are new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button below so that way you guys get notified and when we go live again. I'm not quite sure what we're going to be doing yet. Yeah, I don't know. Usually I go back and forth between doing a VFX stream and just like a straight animated CG stream. So I might do an animated CG stream next week. I'm not quite sure. If you guys have anything particular that you guys would like to see, make sure to leave a comment below of something that you guys would like to watch. Yep, see you next time. Thank you guys so much for joining, and hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Get some rest, and start sharing some stuff over in the Discord. I'm loving seeing Hasselhoff's been posting some amazing works over there, and some of you guys else have been as well. And it's really awesome to see what you guys are creating and what you guys are working on. But yeah, today was a pretty quick live stream, so I think that'll be it for today. But hey, you guys have a good one, and stay creating. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.